It turns out almost all of the $7.5 trillion COVID spending orgy went to fully fund the institutional left, who is currently trying to enslave us. My Heritage colleagues Richard Stern and David Ditch released a new report that found almost none of the $7.5 trillion pumped out allegedly for COVID actually went to health. Instead, roughly 90% went to handouts and crony payments, much of that siphoned to the institutional left that has become the Democrats' power base, meaning your local rioters, hand gluers, and that army of fact-checking censors are now fully funded, courtesy of your tax dollars. First, the numbers. Between 2020 and 2022, new spending authorizations from Washington totaled $7.5 trillion. It's about $57,400 per American household, so a second mortgage. Shockingly, almost none of it actually went to health. Just $700 billion, or less than 10% of that, was even spent on public health, setting aside whether or not it was useful or not. Instead, as Stern and Ditch write, quote, the spending spree focused on welfare expansions, cash handouts, and opportunistic subsidies for a variety of special interests. So who are those special interests? Well, trillions went to green projects. Biden's famous Build Back Better cynically rebranded the Inflation Reduction Act. More went to the left's universe of government-funded nonprofits for everything from LGBT and diversity to, of course, sustainability. On top of bailouts for Hollywood, public transportation, blue city budget holes, the post office, a reliable Democrat base, even bailouts for union pensions, which were running a $757 billion debt. Then, of course, the military-industrial complex, which is what Republicans got in return, who continues to loot the Treasury to the tune of $2 trillion per year on national defense. That's $1,250 per month per household to fund every proxy war they can find while giving free security to any dictator who can cash a check. It's good for Lockheed, it is good for America. All those crony trillions, of course, led to the skyrocketing inflation. $7.5 trillion comes to roughly half the entire supply of dollars in existence pre-COVID. So about $1 in $3 had fresh ink on them, courtesy of a very obliging Federal Reserve who bought up all the treasuries they couldn't flog in the private market, effectively printing all that money. So what is next? What's next is the fleecings will continue until morale ends, because it's worked spectacularly for Washington's army of activists and lobbyists. The Fed has become an in-house money printer for a Congress and administration that exploits every crisis to absorb yet more of the productive economy and hand slabs of it to their cronies. So the deficit and print treadmill will continue to drive inflation and, of course, debt, which is now on track to hit, by Congress's own numbers, $50 trillion in just 7 years, with no end in sight as long-term deficits settle towards $2 trillion per year forever. Alas, as Herbert Stein put it, whatever can't go on forever will stop. There's little hope of them pulling back on their own. Washington is living their best life right now. So either voters force them, or more likely, Washington drives us straight off the cliff, and then, as always, complains how nobody saw it coming. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.